flouting the norms of the day, I see. I suppose we each bloom in our own way. I must be hearing things. Too much time engaging with mandrakes. My students are all studying or planting. Glad to see they're not wandering the faculty tower. Your weeds possess their own rugged form of beauty. Now remember, a wand is not a trowel. Keep at it. A garden requires patience as much as water and sunlight. The edges mustn't curl and turn brown like that. Miss Sweeting seems to have the affinity for magical beasts that I have for magical plants. Such passion for a subject should be encouraged. I'm afraid I must root you out. Like a weed in a flower bed, I fear you are out of place. You will want to focus with this spell. Nothing as mortifying as knocking back a colleague when all you wanted to do was move a few pots. Before we plant the seed, we must till the soil. When you're finished with them, come and see me and we'll work on the charm together. I look forward to it. They're meant to help you hone your magical skills outside of the classroom, thus preparing you to learn a new charm, Wingardium Leviosa. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, the greenhouse won't keep itself in order without a nudge from me. The cabbages do get testy without something to chew. Fortunately, I have a dummy for them to gnaw on. Be a dear and let them have a good chomping. They're in the other greenhouse. It's just at the end of the footbridge leading out of this room. Your classmate, Mr. Pruitt, has kindly offered to accompany you. Well done! Once it can be harvested, your dittany will be ready to use in Wiggenweld potion. I'll let Professor Sharp tell you about that. Come back and see me when you're finished. Oh, and mind your fingers. They do bite. Now, what say we branch out? Introduce you to a different sort of flora, the Chinese chomping cabbage. You'll find that some plants are better suited to uses outside of a cauldron. Remember, there are no weeds at Hogwarts, just flowers whose acquaintance we've not yet made. Splendid work, everyone! Reparo! The soil should envelop the root like a warm, dirty blanket, putting the mandrake right at ease. All right then, off you go. I'm very sorry about that. Yours was a bit mature, I'm afraid. Perhaps a hybrid. Bouncing tentacular. And with that helpful reminder as to why we should always wear our dragon hide gloves, I shall end our lesson here. Terribly sorry, Mr. Clopton. When executed correctly, you should be able to pick up boulders as though they were sprigs of sneezewort. How lovely of you to ask. I've always had an affinity for greenery, so this situation is a bit of a dream come true. The little beast gouged the professor's eyes quite fiercely, but terrifying, I'd imagine. Likely for the professor, too. Not to worry. I'll be here if you'd like to talk. Very kind of you to say. I do love these gardens and helping my students grow. He lost what little patience he had left with a particularly temperamental venomous tentacula and, well, lovely speaking with you. Have a wonderful day. One can only hope he found more happiness working with them than he did with Flora. His resulting leave of absence continues to this day. Oh, and remember, be kind to your Wigan trees. Well, he never really cared for the plants, and they could sense it. Oh, you'd be surprised how perceptive a plant can be. The plants are resting, so now's as good a time as any. After graduation, I was thrilled to be asked to step in for my old herbology professor. He'd had a slight accident, you see. Unfortunately for him, its leaves were hiding a bowtruckle. You may recall the marvellous creatures that resemble a twig. Well, not quite. After 3 weeks at St. Mungo's, my predecessor regained a tiny bit of his eyesight. He insisted on returning to the greenhouse. Within a week, he claims by accident, kicked a Chinese chomping cabbage, so it was back to St. Mungo's for him. Upon his discharge from the hospital, his indifference to plants had turned to utter disdain. Well, I felt awful for him, but I dare say I felt a bit more sympathy for the cabbage. At any rate, the trouble began one day when he cut into a Wigan tree. Last I heard, he'd gone to Romania. As rumour would have it, he'd developed a sudden interest in dragons. Well done! Once you've completed them all, be sure to return to me, and I'll know that you're ready to learn flippendo. Of course, dear. Professor Weasley has kindly asked that I give you some tasks to ensure that your learning continues to flourish outside of the classroom. Well, everyone, that's all for today. Class is dismissed. go forth and blossom. Feel free to practice Wingardium Leviosa here in the greenhouse. I've set some crates out for you in the next room. If you'd like to practice a bit more, you're welcome to do so here in the greenhouse. Just mind the plants, please. The Dittany seeds you need can be found on the table in the back. Now, ready to learn flippendo? Chin up, keep a light grip, and it's all in the wrist. Let's see you give it a go. Well, if there's one thing I love to see more than my plants thriving, it's one of my students doing the same. Just yesterday, I spent hours pruning my self-fertilising shrubs and flutterby bushes. Didn't realise how long I'd been at it until the sun began to set. Wonderful! I hope you gained a greater appreciation for the flora in our lives. I am forever enraptured by it. Wonderfully done! Oh dear, I'm afraid you've rather veered outside of the curriculum. Dittany's restorative properties make it a vital ingredient in the Wiggenweld potion, as you all should know from Professor Sharp's class. Do I hear the patter of students' feet? That wasn't a bouncing bulb, I heard. I'm glad. Herbology is a bounteous subject. Tend to your garden, and it will tend to you. Well, I suppose that's everything. Do come by for a chat sometime. I so enjoy checking in with my new students. And good, as you do seem to be quite green-fingered. Oh, I'm eager to see your skill in the soil continue to blossom. I think you'll come to see that the fruit is well worth the labour. As we herbologists like to say, tend to your plants and they'll tend to you. Remarkable plants, aren't they? I hope they weren't too much trouble. Oh, don't see any bite marks or missing digits. I'm so proud of my fellow professors for all that they did to keep us safe. No one shall take down Hogwarts. There's plenty of dragon dung in case you run out. Feel free to plunge right in. Students are like plants. They require nutrients from a variety of sources. If you plant every day, harvest time is always soon to follow. The venomous tentacula isn't so much murderous as it is simply misunderstood. Water, soil, sunlight, and a touch of magic. That's all your garden needs. When you grow a plant, you bring joy into the world. To what do I owe this pleasure? The prudent herbologist is no more afraid of the venomous tentacula than the bouncing bulb. Quickly! Place your mandrakes in the new pot and pat down the soil! Accio, class, please welcome the newest rose in our garden. Now, everyone, grip their mandrake by the tendrils and give it a firm tug. Now then, today we will be acquainting ourselves with the mellifluous tuber known as the mandrake root. Let's see if we can't make our fibrous friends a bit more comfortable, shall we? First, let's protect our ears. We do look forward to growing together. How wonderful it is to see you again, Lenora dear. Oh, here, you'll need these for today's class. A little treat for your auntie. Ah, hello! How thrilling it is to have everyone back together again. This year will be filled with enchantment and excitement, but the most important thing cultivated in herbology is knowledge. Precisely, and I was remarkably fortunate. I spent a good deal of time alone in either the greenhouse or the library, my first days here. Oh, how nice of you to ask. Well, let's see, I grew up in London, right on the Thames. Mind you, it did take some time, and whilst it is my fervent hope that each student eventually feels as at home here as I do, it is not always the case. I dare say you'll find that the friends you make here at Hogwarts will last a lifetime. Oh, but I've given you the wrong impression. On the contrary, I was shown great kindness. Lovely to see you. Oh, darling Mrs. Sprottle. She was always astonished I knew as much magic as I did, being Muggle-born. You see, as a child, I knew nothing of witches or wizards. You can imagine how astonished I was to receive my letter from Hogwarts. And we each grow and thrive according to our own plan. Oh, I was terribly nervous when I arrived at the castle. Well, we each bloom differently, don't we? Some of us, like Devil's Snare, thrive in the shadows, whilst others crave the attention of a bouncing bulb. Now, I'd best get to my recent delivery from the Magic Neep. Mr. Teasdale promised me quite an assortment of seeds this week. Of course, even the chattiest Cabbage needs a moment of respite. Certainly. What's on your mind? In fact, a seventh year took me under her wing during those first days. She remains one of my dearest friends. I was indeed. It was indeed. How on earth did you know that? I used to dream of just that. But it wasn't until I came to Hogwarts that I felt truly at home. To some, yes. I used to dream of living in the country, but it wasn't until I came to Hogwarts that I felt truly at home. I'm not surprised the villagers rose up so valiantly against those trolls. I have dear friends in Hogsmeade, and they're a talented, courageous lot, not to be trifled with. Your part in all this floral alchemy is simple. Take the seeds to your potting table, plant them, and then wait for harvest time. I hope there are no students in the hospital wing on account of my venomous tentacula. That's a relief. I mean about the venomous tentacula. I'd like you to get some hands-on experience with the Chinese chomping cabbages. They're in the greenhouse, just across the footbridge. Mr. Pruitt will assist you with them. How wonderful to see you again. You're a natural. Well done. I might suggest you practice such manoeuvres in a more secluded location. Professor Fig was always so kind to me, and to all of his students. I shall miss speaking with him about magical theory and herbology. What a brilliant mind. Kindness and concern are as necessary in the greenhouse as in the Great Hall. To make anything grow, we must first understand it. That goes for plants as well as friendships. Professor Weasley said how exceedingly well you've done catching up this year. I'm not surprised at all at how quickly you've bloomed. I gather you bravely fought for Hogwarts. Such courage has not gone unnoticed. We are forever grateful to you. Oh, lovely to see you. Look at that. You're a natural. That concludes our class. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. I'll be sure to let her know how well you're coming along. Professor Hecat tells me she taught you Levioso, so you should be ready for a more advanced levitation charm. Pleased to hear it. Professor Weasley will be too. Wingardium Leviosa requires a bit of concentration and a nice, graceful wand movement. Let's see you try your hand at it. I suppose Professor Black knows best, but the students are terribly disappointed about Quidditch being cancelled. Hufflepuff? Not Ravenclaw? Anyway, I had high hopes for Hufflepuff. I was finally going to learn the Quidditch rules. I thought I heard something. Perhaps not. How's that? I'm partial to Hufflepuff myself. What was that? Oh, I suppose I should pay closer attention in the next match, if there ever is one. Now for our next task, we'll be planting Dittany at our potting tables. You can all get started. I need to have a brief word with our new student. Just the person I'd hoped to see. Firstly, well done with your Mandrake. They can be rather difficult to get a grasp of. Well, yes, of course the cry of a mature Mandragora can be fatal, so remember to keep those ears protected. I've arranged for you to have your own potting table here in the classroom. Wasn't easy to spare one on such late notice. Plant the seeds there now, and you can return to harvest them later. Even with soil, sunlight, and a bit of magic, they will take time to grow. How kind of you. It seems you're already taking to herbology like a mandrake to fresh soil. Now, as I mentioned, next we'll be planting Dittany. Let us find you some seeds. You've visited the Magic Neep. Wonderful! A prepared student is bound to bloom. So nice to see you again. I would like to teach you Wingardium Leviosa. It can be used to levitate objects for a short time. Once you've completed a few prerequisite tasks, do see me after class. How would you like to learn the knockback jinx flippendo? Once you've completed the necessary tasks, come and find me in the greenhouse.